should fight one another for the honor of leadership.
Not necessary.
But everybody knows who's in charge.
Me.
Yes, you. Of course. Of course. Of course.
Hey everybody, it's Charlie. This is going to be my video for Thor 4 in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, or Asgardians of the Galaxy as we should call it, unofficially Thor 4. We know a little bit about the plot and the characters of the movie and the story arc, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the Marvel videos. We're also doing a new round of that IMAX ticket giveaway, like we have the new cut of Avengers Endgame hitting theaters and Spider-Man Far From Home. You can use the tickets for any movie that you want. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a Thor or Spider-Man comment on the video. I'll name a new winner at the end of this. So I just broke this down top 7 style, starting with Rocket. Supposedly the movie is going to be dealing with his backstory. James Gunn said that he identifies with Rocket most as a character, and at one time when he was doing Guardians 2, he thought about doing a Rocket Groot spin-off, if he was ever going to do a spin-off of any of the Guardians characters. So it makes sense that they would deal with a lot of Rocket's backstory in one of these films, but supposedly the person who created him in the MCU will be the High Evolutionary, who's a really weird and super deep-cut Avengers villain from the comics. The Guardians films pride themselves trading on really weird characters inside the MCU, talking raccoon, talking tree, so the High Evolutionary is not a big leap for them to make during the film.
Impressive. You're far more vibrant than my usual subjects.
I'll show you vibrant red.
You will address me as the High Evolutionary.
Thanos' rock? Forget it. Do your worst. We ain't telling you, squat.
I am no torturer. I am an artist.
Terrible fathers are also a running theme through all of the films. Gamora's terrible dad in the first film is Thanos. Peter Quill's terrible dad, Ego the Living Planet, is the villain of the second film. It would make sense that another terrible dad would be one of the villains of the third film, and it just so happens to be Rocket's creator. If you're not really familiar with Rocket's backstory in the Marvel comics, he was actually from Half-World, but you also saw that during the lineup during the first Guardians film where you see he's from Half-World, but they don't really get into his backstory. It was a planet in the universe where a bunch of alien humanoids, they built a planet to be an insane asylum to watch and treat, study a bunch of people. They wound up leaving, but they left behind a race of robots to care for all the insane people on the planet. A nearby explosion on a star created all this radiation. The robots gained sentience, then they themselves started experimenting in upgrading the animals that had been left behind as companions for the formerly insane humans that the planet had been originally created for. It's a really weird story. Obviously, the High Evolutionary isn't part of the comic book version of that, so they're already changing some of Rocket's comic book backstory, so don't worry too much about that right now. 6, they're supposed to use the Rocket backstory plot with the High Evolutionary to introduce the Lila character from the comics. She's a talking otter in the way that Rocket is a talking raccoon. She's supposed to be his soulmate, and she's the heir to one of the largest companies on their home world. There was a story in the comics where they saved all the creations on their home planet, then they flew away together on a spaceship to live out their lives. So maybe Rocket winds up getting a happy ending of sorts and winds up leaving the Guardians at the end of the film. The team's roster is going to cycle anyway if they continue as a group within the MCU, regardless of whether or not they do Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 4. But number 5, Drax is supposed to learn that his daughter is still alive, so presumably his arc in the film would be reuniting with her and going off to be a family again. So maybe he also leaves the Guardians team at the end of the film, because Batista is getting up there in age, and just like Hugh Jackman said that it was just spine-crushing to stay in shape to play the Wolverine character, it's the same deal for Dave Batista playing Drax. It is really, really hard for him to stay in that good a shape, the physical toll that it takes on his body just performing as the character. If you've ever heard the nightmare that it is to get into Drax makeup and then out of Drax makeup, you would also assume that in relative short order, Drax would get his happy ending and sort of ride off into the sunset. So I don't expect him to stay on the Guardians team for forever.
I heard Zoe Saldana's a makeup regime yesterday. Yours is pretty involved as well. It involves a sauna and shaving cream.
Oh, yeah, it does. So that's the remove. So, yeah, the great part about it is it goes on very fast, about an hour and a half, which it was great for me. The first film was like 4 to 6 hours. The bad part is that it's very abrasive. It's like glue. So to get it off, I have to sit in a sauna for about an hour. And so what we do is first they rub shaving cream all over me because it helps to loosen up the makeup. It's really awful. We've gotten some strange looks, but so I got my team. They rub shaving cream all over me. And now I get in the sauna for about 20 minutes by myself, and then about 3 guys join me, and they start scrubbing this makeup.
Remember, the only reason he joined the Guardians in the first film was to kill Thanos as revenge for Thanos killing his family, and as of the end of Avengers Endgame, both versions of Thanos are dead, goal 1 achieved, and 2, if his daughter were still alive, it would really complete his arc. The story about him getting out of costume, though, is insane, so obviously it takes a long time to put the Drax makeup on. Before, while looking for the younger Gamora from 2014, remember Peter Quill's trying to track her down as of the end of Avengers Endgame, Nebula chills out even more and grows closer with Peter Quill and the other Guardians. I don't think that there's anything romantically that's going to be going on between the two of them, but remember what Gamora's character arc was in the first and second Guardians films. She starts out as this super hardcore person, betrays Thanos, then begrudgingly joins the Guardians of the Galaxy because they need each other's help to prevent the Power Stone from falling into Thanos' hands. Then by the second film, she's officially part of the family and even acting like a very hardcore mom and dad team with Peter Quill, all the while trying to get her sister Nebula to chill out and join the cool kids for super fun happy times.
So after I murder my sister, I will buy a warship with every conceivable instrument of death. I will hunt my father like a dog, and I will tear him apart slowly, piece by piece, until he knows some semblance of the profound and unceasing pain I know every single day.
Yeah.
This time it would be Nebula as the cool kid chasing after angrier Gamora to try and get her to chill out and join the family. I was a huge fan of the brief Iron Man and Nebula scenes that we got during Avengers Endgame. Karen Gillan is awesome as that character, so no idea if Nebula and Gamora would leave the team at the end of the movie. Maybe Nebula stays on, because I think that Karen Gillan really enjoys playing that character, and I think that they've found easier ways to get her into makeup so it's not quite as brutal as, say, like Drax's makeup. 3, Thor is supposed to be part of the movie as Guardians of the Galaxy, as implied by this ending scene from Avengers Endgame. But the way Dave Bautista talked about Chris Hemsworth recently makes me wonder how much of the movie he's supposed to be part of. Because remember, James Gunn turned in his final script for the movie a couple years ago before that big debacle happened, before we knew anything about what was going on during Avengers Endgame and where they were taking the Thor character. So Dave Bautista recently said, I would love to have Chris Hemsworth as Thor in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. So I'm like, wait a minute, is Thor actually in the original version of the movie that James Gunn wrote, or are they changing things? Are they adding him later? What's the deal? Odds are, because people like Thor so much with Guardians of the Galaxy, that maybe he's not a huge part of the film, he's just a small part, or they'll at least reference what's going on, and then he goes off on his own by the end of the film. And they use it as a sort of jumping off point for whatever Thor 4 is going to be once they eventually make that movie. 2, this is really cool. Supposedly the movie is finally going to do a version of Beta Ray Bill, who we last saw as an Easter egg during Thor Ragnarok. He was actually originally in a cut of that film, but they took him out at the last minute. So he is a character in the MCU. He does exist, and he's still alive. No idea what the future of Beta Ray Bill within the Thor franchise is going to be, or if Beta Ray Bill would become a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy, just because those films trade on weird characters so much, and Beta Ray Bill is one of the weirdest characters that they would have ever done so far. I think if he continues as a character in the MCU and Thor 4 and whatever other space-based films, it just depends on how much people like the character during Guardians 3. And it's always possible he could wind up being another deleted scene too. So my Beta Ray Bill expectations are actually pretty low, but he's a member of the Corbinite race in the comics. He was originally introduced by Walt Simonson to be the first non-Asgardian Thor character to be deemed worthy enough to lift Thor's hammer. That was the whole idea. Somebody else who could finally lift Thor's hammer.
Around the world. Assemble.
After he does, Odin winds up forging him his own hammer that has similar powers to Mjolnir, and he just goes off on his adventures with Thor, showing up every once in a while. The hammer itself is called Stormbreaker, so because Thor's new axe hammer in the MCU is called Stormbreaker, maybe they'll have some fun with that idea. The Thor Ragnarok Beta Ray Bill deleted scenes were just him fighting in the arena Planet Hulk style. Remember, his face was on the side of the Grandmaster's Tower, meaning that he's one of the previous champions of the Contest of Champions. Kevin Feige said that they did a lot of previs and he was in a version of the movie right up to the end, but they just felt like there was too much going on, so they just wound up cutting him out so that they could introduce him in a much bigger way in another Marvel movie, rather than worry that they do him a disservice as a character by only just briefly showing him on screen and that's it, not really explaining anything about the character. So even though he was in the movie for a long time, he wasn't ever going to be a really big part of it. In number 1, of course, the movie is supposed to introduce Adam Warlock. We all saw that during the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 post-credit scene. First is a villain, because he's being created by the Sovereign, who are villains to the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then eventually their ally. Because even if you're not an expert on Adam Warlock comics, you probably know that he's mostly a good character in the comics. But you can see how introducing him as a villain and antagonist to the Guardians at first is a way to reference his magus persona from the comics. There's rumors that it's supposed to be Zac Efron. I don't totally believe that, but they probably have someone in mind because originally they were supposed to start shooting Guardians 3 this past January before that big debacle happened. So they would have had to have already been talking to people about playing the character, but with the delay, it's not coming till 2022 now, they could continue the search. And as much as everyone is thinking about Keanu Reeves as Adam Warlock, I don't think that that's what they're talking to Keanu Reeves about.
You're breathtaking. You're all breathtaking.
They've been talking to Keanu Reeves about playing a character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Kevin Feige said that they've talked to Keanu Reeves every year about every single Marvel movie they've ever made to try and find something for him to do because he's so fantastic and right now he's blowing up. Of course, they want to get him in the MCU somewhere.
Huh. Oh, yeah. Huh. Huh. Yes. Huh? Hold on. One more. Oh, yeah.
I think he would make an amazing Adam Warlock, but I don't think that they're going for him. It's just the idea that Adam Warlock is a very spiritual character, but because of the spiritual characters that Keanu Reeves is known for playing, you can understand how people would be theory crafting that maybe Adam Warlock is the character that he's up for. Possible outcome for the Guardians at the end of the movie, though, is that a new roster forms around either Thor for permanent as Guardians of the Galaxy in Thor 4, or maybe Thor leaves at the end and Adam Warlock winds up forming a new team of Guardians. Presumably, teenage Groot would finally grow to become full-size adult Groot again. His race doesn't age like normal humanoids. He can grow to full-size anytime he wants. He just needs the sustenance to give himself energy for the change. So I would expect that the Guardians as a team will continue on, but the roster will be very different. They've been talking about doing a Nova film during Marvel Phase 4. It's always possible that they use the Guardians movies to spin that character out, unless it's going to be some big prequel movie. And it's a little too early to start introducing Fantastic Four, Silver Surfer, Galactus characters, but Silver Surfer would be an awesome Thor 4 crossover. So hopefully they'll find some way in the next couple of movies to introduce that character. There'll be a whole bunch more Marvel stuff happening next week. I'll do a post-credit scene video for the new cut of Avengers Endgame, and obviously I'll be doing Spider-Man videos all week long. Leave your requests in the comments below. Congratulations, Anthony Jordan. You're the giveaway winner from my last big Marvel video. Please email me on the About page of my channel so I can get your contact details. Click here for my new Avengers Endgame post-credit scene video, and click here for that funny new Spider-Man Far From Home scene and learn all about the Spider-Man Venom crossover teaser from Kevin Feige. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.